One, two, three. Hello and welcome to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. God Loves Man Kills review, special episode. I am your host, Skelhorn, and with me as always, my baby sister, André.
What's happening? This isn't the
We're reviewing the comic book that
YMCA.
you just read.
No, I didn't just read it. I read it like a week ago.
Oh, well, fair enough.
I gave it a little time.
That's fine.
Yeah, I read it on the old Marvel Unlimited app right here on the old tablet. As much as I'd love to read paper comics, sometimes they're not always readily available, and this is a really cool way to read comics you might not otherwise get a chance to read. $8
Written
a month,
by-
it's well worth it.
Written by Chris Claremont, the great, and art by Brent Eric Anderson. I have my original Marvel graphic novel here.
That is beautiful, I must say. I wish I had a copy of that.
It's very glossy. Like the art on the inside is really friggin' jumps out at you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautifully drawn, I must say.
It is. I didn't know much about this Brent Eric Anderson, I don't think, but
well, according to
other things. Yeah.
According to the internet, this was almost drawn by Neil Adams.
Oh, really?
But he had to leave because there's some changes to what they wanted, and he had some other stuff going on. So they brought in, as because of Marvel wanted his contract could not be a standard work for hire thing, and that's all he did at the time. So he stepped away from it. But apparently, originally, it was supposed to be a non-canonical story. It would have began with Magneto being killed by Stryker's team, which would have been a very different kind of comic. But then when they changed up the art, they made it more of a they made it fit in with what they were doing in the comics and all that sort of stuff.
I was never sure if this was supposed to be considered part of.
Well, it is because Stryker's come back several times in the Marvel universe.
Yeah,
I mean, he shouldn't have because it would have been great to stand alone, especially because they always like change stuff. Like now he's like a robot or something. like I think in continuity, he's like some kind of a robot. He's like a robot that runs Weapon X in the comics now or something, or started a new version of Weapon X at some point. Like they're trying to shoehorn, I guess, this continuity from the X-Men movie, X-Men 2 movie, and with what they did in this. Which I was surprised how much X-Men 2 actually did lift from this. Stryker's character is very similar, and it's only one key difference.
Is he?
Yeah, he was a military man. He was a military man in the comic before he became a preacher. He literally, we just picked up.
He said that. He said he was a soldier. The Stryker in the movie is a scientist, self-proclaimed. But
he has control over a military department.
Is he General Stryker? They call him.
I believe he is. Yes,
he has something to do with that.
Yeah, so literally, instead of just having him go the path of the religion to get to his ends, he just kept staying in the military complex. So aside from that, there are a lot of parallels to the movie that I knew it was based on this, but there's quite a bit that it's based on. Some key differences, but all said and done, it's a pretty faithful adaptation. Aside from
I like this better than the movie because it's Claremont, so he has the characters perfectly. They're his characters.
Yeah, absolutely. He had built them at this point, but there are differences as far as like Jean Grey's not in it in the book because at this point she had died in the comics. And
I love this. This is actually my 6th favorite X-Men.
Pretty great. I think it's up there for me too.
My favorite team.
As far as actual X-Men go, not like mutants, I would say it's up there for me as well. It's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah, man. Like Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Cyclops, Wolverine, and Jean Grey. I mean, not Jean Grey, and Kitty Pryde, I should say.
Yeah, were they calling her Ariel at this time?
She went for Ariel. She went by Ariel and Sprite. And all kinds
Sprite kind of makes sense. It was a very popular drink, but I'm kidding. But where did Ariel come from? Did she just watch The Little Mermaid at that point and was like, let's do this?
I don't remember.
Actually, this would have been pre-Little Mermaid. I think this book came out in the
It was
80s, right? 82.
1982.
Oh yeah, long 10 years before. But what, I
2
wonder what
years
Ariel,
before I was born.
3 before I was born.
Oh, you're so young.
I'm 38. That's not young. I don't feel it.
No, that's good. You keep fit.
I work on it.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the story, shall we? It's great.
It's great and incredibly dark. It's probably one of the darkest X-Men stories I've ever read, especially one that's like it starts off with child murder, like pretty explicit child murder. Which, I mean, obviously, as a fan of darker stories and more complex narratives, I was a big fan of this book.
It's hard to read. Like Brent Anderson captures emotion amazingly well.
Well, there's this. What's going on here? One sec.
But I will actually, before we get into it, what it does remind me of is a little spoiler to lead it to a future episode. We recently did have our interview with Bob Skier. So check that out, everybody. And he sent us the script to his X-Men movie that never got made. And I got to say, there are similarities.
Oh, cool. I do plan on reading
that. It would, like, the way this is hard to read, like, because it's so, like, emotional things happening to children. Like,
I wouldn't say it's hard to read. It's definitely
not hard to read, but it's like emotional,
Yeah, I get it. But there's this Austrian director.
That's a good thing.
There's this Austrian director called Michael Haneke who I really like. And I'm not sure where he's from. But anyway, he does a lot of amazing movies, dark movies with kind of complex stories. And so there's one particular one called Funny Games that he remade an American version of later on, which is almost a commentary on violence in cinema and why we want to see it and why it's sensationalized when true violence is, horrifying and hard to watch. So he made this movie, which sort of plays with the conceits of movies in general. It's a very interesting movie. And there's a great essay that he wrote that goes along with it if you want to explore it further. But it really it does this great job of like removing hope. Like you literally just watch horrible things happen to people and there's no real hope ever for them to get away. And sometimes in this book, especially this opening scene, you really feel that there's like a real, and that to me, that's more terrifying than just scary stuff in a movie with jump scares and whatnot. When you actually like remove hope and you just horrible things are going to happen to these people. Ari Aster's movies like Hereditary and Midsommar are very similar. Nothing's good is going to happen to these people. They're probably all going to die in horrible ways. In a way, it's almost a relief when they die because you're just so stressed waiting for it to happen that when it finally happens, you're like, thank God. But
it is stressful, these purifiers chasing these kids through the
Yeah. Actually, it's funny because in the Marvel Unlimited version, we get a content warning. Davan, you see this?
Really?
Yeah, it says says the previously published content includes negative depictions of people or cultures. These stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now. Social change is a journey. We must acknowledge where we've come from to build a more inclusive future.
A particularly heated word as well. They probably are.
Likely so. But also the fact that these two kids
back cover is great too. Look at the back cover.
Oh, that is awesome. And like, especially considering that's on the corpse of a child, that sign is hanging.
Yep. So yeah, so this really establishes the purifiers as dangerous, but also completely horrible and awful.
And effective. Like as far as like it within the Marvel universe, we've had villains, the terrifying villains that have done horrible things on a global scale, but none that seem to have been as effective as infiltrating the X-Men or capturing them, and especially killing mutants as these guys have been. They seem incredibly effective, considering they're just a bunch of nobodies, really, that are all led by a former military guy.
Yeah, but also like funded by a church. Like,
which is also terrifying.
Yeah,
one of the more in fiction, one of the things that bothers me the most is religious fanaticism. When people do these horrible things, believing that they're right because God's on their side, and for some reason that always that always bothers me more than normal stuff whenever I see that stuff in horror films. So yeah, it's a good one. So yeah, we join. It starts with these two kids that are running. They're both really terrified. One child gets hit, and Mark, yes, and his sister refuses to leave him. He tells her to move on, but she won't. She'll stay with him, and they want to know what these people want, and they just identify themselves with the purifier, saying that they're mutants, and they're going to send them to join their parents, indicating they killed their parents as well. They just shoot them. There's not kill the kids.
They shoot them dead. These kids.
Hang the bodies.
It's like, why? And she's like, because you have no right to live.
Yep. And then they just hang their bodies from the kid swing set with signs on them that say "Mutie."
Some of the imagery in this book is just crazy too. Like even that, like there's like the kids hanging from the thing. Like that's crazy.
Yep. And we see their bodies taken down by Magneto, who discovers them, sees that it was an execution. And
had he shown up a half hour earlier?
Sure. But he is
not enough purifiers alive to make a difference then.
But he vows to find those responsible for this atrocity and make them pay. Saying that even with all his power, he's unable to stop this from happening. So
I do love how Brent Anderson draws Magneto.
Yeah, that last little panel there is pretty good.
Kind of how Magneto looks in my head.
Yeah, it's a good depiction, I must say. But then we see the Evangelical Striker building, which is the fancy.
What a tower he has, though.
Yeah.
Look at this thing.
Well, that's not far off from the mega churches of today. Like whoever the biggest,
most phallic symbol ever.
Who's the biggest? Yeah, that is true. It is pretty phallic. Who's the biggest evangelical preacher now? It's not Austin. I think there's someone ahead of him, isn't there?
Who there's
whoever the richest one. Anyway, yeah. I thought Austin was one. It might be like Billy Graham's family or something, but somebody's ahead of him, I believe, for the most like the richest. But Austin's one of them. These guys that get, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, all from their flock, if you will. They're the people that, support them, and they don't pay any taxes on it.
Yeah.
So, if they want to go on the current one is Kenneth Copeland. He's the richest pastor in the world. As of 2023, his net worth is $760 million. Which is insane. You know how much people could be helped from taxing these churches?
It'd be nice.
What do you mean? I don't think I'm being overly controversial.
I said that it would be nice.
Oh, I thought you said you be nice. I'm like, are you afraid that I'm offending?
No, man. Take them down. We'll go knock on their door. We'll have to wrestle you for their millions.
Sure.
We'll walk in there and be like, well, we've come for the millions.
Well, you can just wait a few years and one of them will get caught, with a man or with a prostitute or with two men and another prostitute, and then they'll all tumble and the next one will take their place. That's usually how it goes.
Two men are a prostitute.
Possibly so. But usually it's, they get usually the ones that are the most against gay culture or gay people are the ones that are in themselves turn out to be gay somehow. There's this one woman in the States right now that was or is it the one that was the Italian prime minister? There's somebody that was going on all these really against gay people stuff, and then came out that her and her husband were having threesomes with another woman, and the woman was mostly in it for the wife, who's the political leader, and that their relationship was predominantly a lesbian relationship in the confines of a threesome. That was going on for a long time, and it's usually those who protest the most are the ones that have something to hide. But anyway,
he thinks you don't protest too much.
To quote, I'm almost sure that B said that in this show.
Sam wants to know why we're not doing the movies. We're doing the movie, Sam. We'll be back on the 9th with X-Men 2. With Dave
we're just waiting because we were going to have Dave on. David Cutler on for that episode. That's when he's available. So we're filling in with some other fun stuff.
An episode last minute pushed everything back. It happened.
Yeah, it's all good. Life happens. But
but now
we're gonna have to find some creative ways to keep the X-Men content to roll in until we get the new show. So this is one of them. We're going to keep doing the movies. We're going to mix it up with stuff like this, talking about the comics, interviews with folks that were, involved with the series.
We're going to
so on and so forth.
Bob Skiers to send us with him.
Yes, we'll get that Bob Skier skit. Poor Davin's like a dog with a bone when he gets something he wants to do. We'll get to it.
Script.
I'm sure it's fine. I'm not saying it's not going to be. It's just I literally got it a week ago, and you're like, read it so we can do this episode.
Well, we do have episodes to fill, but
that's true. So then we see Stryker reading from the Bible, and then hearing that his briefing tapes are ready to go review, in which he watches some footage about the X-Men themselves and their abilities, learning all he can about them. Someone interrupts from Bess, I believe, is his assistant, who asks if he's watching something about the X-Men. He says, she says, are those the X-Men? He says, they certainly are, but God willing, if it all goes well, not for very much longer, indicating some of his evil intentions, if you will.
Quite nefarious.
Then we cut to, that must be an epilogue of sorts, because then we cut to chapter 1, in which we see Kitty Pryde literally smashing through the window of a youth dance academy in which she's a part of, attacking a boy who punches her right in the face.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, she gets
good. Black eye.
Yep. And then we find out the reason for this. It was basically because Kitty had started the fight because this boy Daniel, I believe his name is, was shooting off too much, saying how he agreed with the Stryker Crusade people
that him and his parents were members.
Yes, and she, of course, took great offense to that because they're very public against mutant kind. And then,
and she's just at the dance studio. She's at Stevie Hunter's dance studio, so she's just like beating the shit out of this other dancer kid. Or like trying. Yes. It's actually a good fight. She doesn't think she wins it, actually.
Miss Hunter's dance studio. Who's Stevie Hunter? She's someone I should know from Marvel Comics? Or is she an actual person?
No, she's from the comics. She hangs out with the X-Men all the time. She was like, who was it? Storm's roommate for a while, or Jean's? Somebody's roommate. I think it was Jean's for a long time.
Oh, really? I'm unaware of this character. I thought she was just a disposable character made for this comic.
No, Stevie Hunter.
So when Peter comes to her assistant, basically he calls him calls his sis Kitty. This Daniel kid calls him a mutie lover. But
steps up, who's like ginormous even when he's not metal. The kid backs right down.
Yeah, of course he did. Like, what an idiot kid. He's like, you want to make some of this mutie lover? And then he's like, you've both made your points. I said, young man, I suggest you let matters end there. And he's like, oh, right, I guess so. No problem there, Mr. Rasputin.
Then he marries mouthing off right again. He's just like, well, if King Kong wasn't here, I'd kick your ass, kitty. He's just like,
yeah, absolutely.
And he just told you to shut up, and you're just mouthing off again.
And when Stevie tries to,
cut of his jib, gotta tell you.
No, I'm not a big fan of the jib cut either. Not a good cut of jib. So, Stevie tries to caution Kitty Pryde to letting her anger get out of hand because she could have hurt the kid. And then Pryde gets defensive and says what is quite possibly the most controversial part of this book, in which, this kid says that he was a mutie lover. And she says, what if he called you an N-word lover or someone that
Stevie says they're only words, child.
Yes, that's right. And then she says, what if she
like, oh, really?
and she says, what if he called me an N-word lover instead? What would that mean? And, then storms off. So it's actually blacked out in the digital version.
Oh, it's not on this one.
Oh, of course it isn't. I mean, at the time, you know what? Like, it's controversial, sure. I mean, I know within the context of the story, it is a white writer and his white character saying that to a black character, but within the context of what they're trying to build in this universe, I'm okay with it. I mean, but I'm not the one who needs to be okay with it. So
it does make Stevie cry, though.
Well, because she kind of knows she's right. She even says in her dialogue, of course she did. She meant, well, first Peter says she's sorry, or Peter says that he's sorry and that she didn't mean it. And Stevie says in a thought bubble, which I miss thought bubbles in comics. I wish we still had them.
Me too. I miss them.
But she says
in Spider-Man comics, because
they were the best. So much of his dialogue was just in thought bubbles.
So was Wolverine's, quite frankly. But
that's fair. Yeah. But anyway, she said she cries because she knows that she meant every word and she was right. So, then we see some of the Stryker army, we'll call them, I guess, for lack of a better term, watching from a van, nondescript van parked
They're the
nearby.
purifiers. That's their better term. That's what they're called.
Well, I think that might be I suppose so. Those are the ones that actually go out and kill people or capture them.
Oh yeah, these are all these guys in green. They're all the purifiers.
So we see the X-Men hanging out. Wolverine noticing the shiner Kitty's got, and making comment about it.
Stevie.
He asked if she won. She said no. He said, "Oh, come." She said, "I guess I don't have your killer instinct." He said, "That's all there is to it." She said she wasn't fighting an evil mutant.
Nope.
Or a murder killing machine just to give the big mouth. So giving a little insight into it, and she see her face through the stairs on her way up, which is fine.
But she's sliding up the banister, like
which I don't know if that's possible. I can see coming down. Maybe
she can walk on air. She can do that.
Okay. I mean, that seems. How can you walk on air? I know you can float and phase.
She can phase herself so light that she can walk on air. She's lighter than it. She does
I feel like that opens. Yeah, I get it, but I feel like that opens a whole level of issues when it comes to physics. But anyway, I'm not a physicist.
Are you saying you're an expert in the physics of comic books?
No, I mean in real life physics
of comic books.
That's fair. Good point. I mean, we do have people that control magnetic fields and are from space and all that kind of jazz. So we'll let it slide.
Those might be one of the more science-based powers, really, with all the magnetism stuff. So
the X-Men are watching a debate, a televised debate between Professor Xavier and William Stryker, Reverend William Stryker, founder of the Stryker Crusade.
Which is kind of exciting when you're reading this, because they get right into it. You're like, all right, we're getting right to a debate between Xavier and Stryker on TV. Like that's pretty interesting.
It actually reminded me a lot of the debate at the beginning of X-Men. So I can see of X-Men 1. So I can see why this. It seems like this particular story Singer had a lot of reverence for because he used it, elements of it in X-Men 1 and then really used it fully in X-Men 2. So, you can tell that I'm sure the script concept of that debate between Jean Grey and Senator Kelly was almost lifted directly from this, especially some of the dialogue.
I got to say, though, a debate between Jean and Senator Kelly is not as exciting as a debate between Xavier and William Stryker.
Well, Xavier doesn't do that well. He even says himself.
No, that's what's hilarious, though, but it's because he has evil eyebrows. Everybody knows he has evil eyebrows. The X-Men should know he has evil eyebrows. And, that's why they end up saying he does bad. They're like, no, the other guy looks nice. And it doesn't matter what he's saying because Charles looks evil.
Well, no, they say that Stryker knows television. He's like a televangelist, or he runs this,
No, but they see right here, Cyclops says Charles looks so grim and foreboding, almost scary, that he ended up making Stryker's case for him.
Well, in a way, because he's bringing, a serious subject. He's trying to deal with the death of mutants, and Stryker's glossing over a lot of that. But at any rate, they even the guys that work on the show say that Q Camera and Xavier think he's making a convincing case, and the other guy says, yeah, but who's listening? Stryker knows television, and he's playing to the audience. He comes across as such a nice, reasonable guy. Too bad, because the man's message is pretty damn scary. So even the humans, so there's some reasonable. I like that this issue doesn't necessarily make every human just a irrational, scared, person that can't make their own decisions. We actually do see some competent moral decisions from regular old humans that aren't caught up in the fervor of them. Yeah, quite a few times, which is nice. It is nice to I don't have a high opinion of humanity, but I do believe there are some people within it that
there's at least nuance in it.
We'll make a stand when required. So I
wouldn't hunt down mutants myself. Nor have the urge to.
You wouldn't what, sorry?
Hunt down mutants?
Well, nor would I.
Yeah, exactly. We're a couple of the good ones.
I would do what any good person would. I would try to monetize it, make money off of them. Not hurt them at all. Maybe,
put them in a wrestling ring. Get in there.
Yeah, actually, it'd be pretty entertaining. But or just make a reality show, Can you imagine if there was wrestling where they had powers?
Is that what new breed wrestling means, Andre? The new mutant breed?
Yeah, I may or may not be secretly experimenting on the wrestlers and trying to give them superpowers. So far, I've just given them all a lot of cancer. But someday soon, we'll get those powers. And then money will be made.
Cancer powers.
Well, radiation can help. Maybe it's just the first stage of their development. Tumors, horrible tumors.
But I love like the character stuff here too, like in this page where it's like the reaction of the X-Men to the debate, because like it has all their inner monologues, and it's perfect Wolverine because they're all talking about how like shook they are in different ways, and Wolverine's just like the others are spooked with good reason. Like he's never shook by anything, and like that's one thing I don't really like as much about the movie portrayal of Wolverine. He's
even
shook by everything all the time, and it's just like Wolverine is not that like shocked or quickly like bothered by things.
All right, let's not make this the Davan versus the movie depiction of Wolverine.
Right.
We know you don't like it, although most others do. I particularly do, but I get it. You haven't got your perfect Wolverine yet, and you will someday.
I'll be interested to see how high I am on X-Men 2 after all these years.
Yeah, I know I'm very high in it. Yeah, I was super high in 1, and I didn't know what I'd expect going into it. So
you didn't leave room for 2.
Yeah, I did.
Oh no, you gave it an 8, didn't you?
I did. I almost gave it a 9, but I thought I want to leave room for 2 because I think it's going to be a 10. But we'll see. We'll see when I. Brian Cox is very good, very good, and some of his dialogue in that movie specifically is stuff I still think about to this day. So very well done.
Yeah.
Wolverine even has a great line where he says, "No right." He says, "Take Stryker's remark about mutants not being human and its ultimate and." To its ultimate, and we've no rights under the law. No right to have any rights or protection. We could be exterminated like rats, legally murdered, which is, parallels to other things in history that have happened in other countries. And it's a horrifying thought. Especially when you realize that millions of people believe this guy and watch the show, right? Give him money, support him. So it's got to be tough when you're a minority, especially right now going on in the States with some of the laws that are getting repealed. Like, realizing that there's so many people within your own country that believe this stuff or believe it enough to vote for it. It's scary.
It is.
But
it would have been interesting to see Brian Cox play this preacher character too, though.
Yeah, it would have been. Maybe if he shows up on the cartoon, then give him to voice him. That'd be interesting. It'd be pretty cool, actually.
That'd be something.
Well, I mean, Brian Cox is Irish. What? What is that?
It was just be crazy to bring out Stryker on that cartoon because he's so it's such a serious.
Having him murdering children in the first show. Yeah. Ooh, wow, this show took a dark turn. Disney.
Yeah. So then I guess we get cut to the X-Men in the Danger Room. Yeah, Danger Room stuff.
So we see the end of the episode with Xavier saying that he fears he didn't do well in this presentation. And then Charles, Xavier saying that Stryker is really good working with the camera and stuff. Well, Charles looks so grim. And then they bump into a woman who we saw earlier as the woman that killed the children. Saying letting them go on their way, and then they acknowledge that they have psychic blockers, psi screens, which prevent their true. They know Xavier's a mutant and has abilities because of the footage he had, so they're aware of his abilities. And we just see kind of an extended sequence with the X-Men working together in the Danger Room. It's nothing super.
They're trying to protect this like mannequin family that they call the Mannequinovs.
That's right. And then there's some stuff with them ended up working together and trying to find an elaborate way to problem solve. I must say, of all the kitty costumes I've seen over the years, this is my least favorite.
Yeah,
I don't get the little green diamonds over the eyes. It's all really the big collar. It's very 80s.
I prefer the Sprite look with like the roller skates and the striped stockings.
I'm sure I'm a fan of that either.
The Shadowcat one is all right. My favorite one's Pirate Kitty from the Krakoan era.
Oh, yeah, that is fun.
Kitty. Yeah.
So we then see the X-Men, Xavier and them coming back from in their car, coming back from the studio, and then being attacked in a park. The car is attacked, and the X-Men are shot. It looks very much like they're killed. There's like this sniper, and then just cracks, and them all falling down. So they say to radio, then they blow up the car. They tell them to radio the Stryker and tell them that that they were successful. So then we cut to them looking at the results. The X-Men looking at the results of the Danger Room segment. They get a phone call.
Wolverine just hates it. They're like, "What's your problem?" He's like, "This is like, I don't like this Danger Room stuff. It's just games." And like,
yeah, then just like pops the head off one of the mannequins when he walks by. Like the games for kids and pop. So we see the phone ring and Kurt answer it, and then be told that there's an accident and Professor Professor Xavier Scott and Storm are all dead. Then we cut to the next day, in which Kitty.
I love how they used to always draw Nightcrawler too, where he was like always in shadow somehow. Like,
yeah, his eyes are always in shadow. They draw him the same way in the cartoon, which I always think is kind of cool.
Yeah.
It just mixes up this design a little bit. It's not so blue, especially when everybody's so blue. They're blue, ba da ba dee ba ba doo ba da ba dee da. Anyway, 90s. Eiffel 65 in this house in a blue little window.
Go.
So we
take
see,
it, André.
Everything is blue for him and himself. It's such a dumb song, but I love it. So we cut to Kitty next day having trouble coming to terms with the senseless death.
Xavier, Scott, and Storm. The X-Men are crippled. They cut the 3 heads off of that snake.
Yes, but then she has this line, "I hate death." There isn't much you can do about it. Yeah, Peter and I talked about it once. Seems like ages ago.
But the Kitty's being like super like self-absorbed about it all, and like
for sure.
Ileana has to snap her out of it by saying, they were my friends too.
And Ileana even says
that black guy.
Ileana even says that at one point. They have a quote. Ileana said that Peter told her once that if not for the depths of grief, how can you truly measure the heights of joy? Which is just a parallel of without the dark, there can be no light or any of that bullshit. Yeah. It's a nice way to summarize terrible things that happen to the people you love. But in the end, life is cruel and unfair. So we cut to them discovering
a believer in that philosophy, eh?
No, not really. I mean, it kind of, if you follow that to its logical conclusion, you can just rationalize anything by saying, well, we won't know what love is. We don't have hate. We can't really know what a good life is if we don't know about horrible atrocities. Like, why does one have to exist in order to justify the other? Why can't we all just be happy? I think there's enough danger and random sadness in life to give you a frame of reference to enjoy the times you have. You don't need horrible bullshit to justify, so how happy you can be just by seeing how sad you can be. Because life will give you that anyway. But then they discover these kind of
means it is a justification either.
No, it's like that. It's those empty platitudes you tell people when they're grieving or when someone breaks up with them. There's plenty of fish in the sea, or everybody's got
plenty of fish in the sea.
There are, but it's not the thing that you need to tell somebody that's going through a hard time. You normally just nod and give them a hug and tell them everything will be. You don't even have to tell them everything will be okay. Just be there. People
talk about fish.
People, there are lots of fish out there. It's like, look, I'm already depressed enough. I just got broken up with. I don't want to talk about the horrible fishing atrocities going on in the ocean right now, or the pollution, or the giant plastic, mountain that's in the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean.
The plastic patch. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a rough one.
They're cleaning that up. Little boy in the slot. He's cleaning that up.
Well, good for him. I hope he does. So Kitty finds a robot that's been Kitty and Alana find a robot that's been monitoring the school. She uses her powers to break it, basically, and then we see the other X-Men investigating the accident. And Wolverine comes to the conclusion that this was staged. That in his military career he staged enough accidents and quote, which I thought was funny to know that to recognize the benchmarks of when this happens. So he said the sensor all wrong. He said that the body sensor wrong, so the bodies were swapped out with somebody else's. The days before DNA testing, when you could have just faked your own death by swapping someone else's body into an explosion or a fire, and then you just peace. And no one will ever know the difference.
People used to swap bodies till the cows came home.
Well, even just dig up a fresh corpse, and then rebury it. Someone gets buried, take the corpse out of the grave, rebury the coffin, and then burn something that's relatively your height and weight. It's fine, even if it's not
You
your
speak
weight.
from experience, sir.
Well, this might not be Andre might not be my first name. I may have done this several times.
Or my name at all.
Not even close.
Actually, Andre. This is finally the real name comes.
It may be a secret way that I'm giving you a hint as to my Russian origins. So anyway, the
Red Russian.
Peter's surprised by this information. He asks that they should tell the police. Wolverine says nope. They're going to do this on their own. So Wolverine had a hunch and had Kurt sitting on a pole to watch to see if they were being followed, and he does notice that they are being followed by purifiers. So when Kurt alerts them, the X-Men go into gear and attack the car. They try to get away. Unfortunately, Peter just rips the engine out of the car as it comes. He just slams down on the hood, making it flip over, and then
at the end
and has the engine still in his hand that he rips out, which is pretty cool. It's a nice little scene. It's nice to see like the soup, how powerful these characters can be. So then one of the characters comes out of the car wearing an armor suit, which looks very familiar. I'm not sure where I've seen this before, but it kind of looks like those AIM guys, like when they're in their mandroids. Is that what they're called? That's an X-Men thing, right? Or a Marvel thing? I feel like there was a hero click of it that I used to use. It's like mandroid armor in Marvel Comics. I feel like it was an AIM thing.
Oh,
that's it there. Mandroid armor. It's from there's a bunch of examples of it if you Google it. But it's kind of looks a lot like this. So anyway, they Colossus is like thinks he might be getting stronger or automobiles are getting weaker. Basically, he makes a comment. One of the guys emerges from the wreckage wearing the suit.
Getting weaker.
Of course, well, that is true. They're certainly not made out of like pure steel like they used to be. Because they're, which makes them safer for us.
Vulnerable to Magneto.
That's true. So he's attacked from behind, and while by these soldiers that were in the car, while they're Wolverine was mopping up the other guys. So as he's attacked from behind, he's suddenly saved by Magneto, who pulls the two of them out of their costumes and then wraps them up in little burritos of metal, saying that he's there as an ally to help them.
Yep.
So while that was going on and Kitty had disabled that robot, they're hiding, waiting for someone to come fix it, basically to see who it is. So when they do that, to Purifier group with one of their soldier armor guys arrives to do that, and Kitty sinks under the dirt. And
breath though, see, that's something that's changed in the comics. She doesn't have to breathe while she's phasing anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Ileana gets discovered while Kitty was going off to get help, kind of swimming in the earth, which is interesting. But anyway, Ileana gets discovered and seemingly shot in the head, which turns out she was just stunned, so they took her with her. It's funny that they're taking so many prisoners when it comes to the X-Men, but they're so quick to kill everyone else every other time.
Their power is more exploitable or something.
I guess so. It just seems like, honestly, if I had written this would have been I would have just had them kill Ileana. It would have been a way more interesting. Would have been a way more interesting. At least the stakes would be higher. That's pretty rough.
Kids at the start isn't high stakes for you.
Well, I mean, they're nameless kids. We met them and lost them into the same 2 pages. Like we don't know them. I mean, it's still sad because they're kids, but we don't know their history. So we see the back of the X Mansion now. Magneto is assisting them.
I mean, we think we've lost Professor Xavier, Cyclops, and Aurora at this point. I suppose, but no, actually, no, we don't, because Wolverine already said it was staged. Oh, right. So we've already got an inkling that they're still alive. So we see Wolverine and Magneto and all them back. Magneto is agreeing to help them basically get to the bottom of all this, and they're trying to get information out of the guards that they have in their little metal burritos. His little double claw routine.
Oh, yes.
That's me to pop the third claw, bub. He does that one a lot.
He sure does. But Wolverine is basically ready to kill them, and Magneto offers an alternative to use his powers to force them to
Torture
talk.
them.
Basically torture them.
That's
To which they
yeah.
all readily agree. I know Wolverine would be okay with it, but I'm surprised the others were quite as okay with it as they were.
Yeah, Colossus
They're like,
is
yeah,
"Is
sure,
this
go ahead."
necessary. Wolverine's just like, yup, like lights
Yep,
up
fuck
his
'em up.
cigar. It's like, so funny.
And then like Nightcrawler even says, "But if we use our foes' methods, my friend, then how are we better than they?" It's a bit late after we've already done it. You know, it's like it's easy to be like, "Oh well, we shouldn't have done that." I'm very happy with the results, but I'm not happy with how we got there. Anyway, moving on.
Wolverine's long since come to the fact that he's not better than his enemies by very much. He doesn't worry.
That's
about
what makes
that
him an
shit.
interesting character.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like dark characters and anti-heroes, if you will, need to be. They're interesting, you know, but the line, I feel like people misrepresent them. Wolverine's a good example of one that treads the line well. You know, but there are other characters that there are characters that I feel like the point of them is missed. You know, like Rorschach
Punisher's a good one, but he's not even really a hero. Punisher's like a tragedy.
No, but Punisher's the first one to tell you he shouldn't be seen as a hero. He's not a hero. But like, you know, Rorschach from The Watchmen is when everybody thinks a cool character, and at his heart, he's a racist and a misogynist and a horrible person. Like if you read that comic, he's not a good person. He's broken, very broken because of a tragic childhood. Well, I mean, Dan Dryberg's. I think Night Owl's actually probably the nicest, and Silk Spectre of the crew, or at least the most. The one that we should you know has morally is probably the highest of all of them. But characters like him, the Punisher's one, like Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty, there are characters that people think are cool because they're broken, when in the end you shouldn't want to be like them. You know. So anyway, here we are, chapter 3, where we see Xavier being crucified by the X-Men, who are all monsters now, eating on him, ripping out his heart, slashing him up, and lighting him on fire. Then we soon learn that he is being tortured in a kind of a mind. It's kind of vague, a mind thing that they're using.
Well, he explains it later. They've basically figured out how Cerebro works and sort of just like altered its technology.
But how? How did they find out how Cerebro works?
Well, he says that too. Early, like in the X-Men 60s comics, they worked with the government, and
right, that is mentioned.
They got to that guy, and he covers like a lot of the plot. Like there's not a lot of holes. It's a pretty well written story.
So we see this guy Philip. That's the one that's putting Xavier towards these torturous ends for what we'll soon find out he's really doing. Of course, he's being overseen by Stryker.
Philip, all I can think of is Rugrats. Remember Rugrats? Philip, Lillian.
I've actually never really watched that show. It's kind of, I didn't have cable as a kid, so I missed that one.
Oh, you didn't have YTV?
I did not. I did catch some stuff later. So they have Magneto and Storm, or not, sorry, Magneto. They have Scott and Storm captured in this little pod thing that makes their abilities not work. So he's torturing them as well, which is causing Xavier additional pain because he can sense that they're in trouble because of his powers.
And here on this page, we find out that Stryker only hires people that look pretty much exactly like him.
It's true, he does.
The guy like you, buddy. You remind me of somebody.
So we learn Stryker's backstory, which he readily gives them. Basically, he was in the military. He was a Master Sergeant William Stryker at the U.S. Army Rangers. Tough as hell, nail soldier kind of character. Came home from a tour with his wife Marcy. They're headed south. They were in a car accident in the middle of the desert. She gave birth, and the son was a monster. Basically, it was a mutant that didn't look human. So he killed it with a knife, which is pretty horrifying to think about. And then when his wife was half conscious asking for the baby, he broke her neck to spare her the pain of what he had to do, believing that there was a gas leak from the car.
That's why he did it.
Yeah,
because she thinks she births monsters. Like,
that's also possible too. They didn't really say that.
The way I take this whole thing is it's funny because like normally these flashbacks about villains usually try to make you somehow sympathize with the villain.
Yeah, you really don't with this guy.
Does not do that here. Like it just makes him the most awful human you can imagine. It just makes you hate William Stryker. Like he's probably the most despisable X-Men villain.
Yeah, he sure is. So then he put himself in the car. The car was leaking gas. He put her back in the car with the baby and himself, basically wanting to kill himself to be with them in the afterlife. But he was blown free from the explosion and survived. So they believed it was car
Saved
accident.
by the Lord.
Yeah, praise Jesus. So
Jesus on the way.
because of the explosion, there's no evidence. They believed it was an accident, and he didn't tell anyone the truth. So he got to go living his life. And then eventually lost his job in the military because he was unhinged because of what had happened, and didn't have the guts to kill himself. And then basically read a magazine article about Charles Xavier and mutants, and then he figured out what that monster was.
It was them.
Yeah,
it was Charles Xavier's fault. Look at those eyebrows.
So then he believed that it was Marcy's sin that birthed the mutant, that she had done something horrible, which is why the mutant happened and not him. She was a vessel used by God to reveal unto me Satan's most insidious plot against humanity to corrupt us through our children. While they were still in the womb, the Lord created man and woman in his image, blessed with his grace. Mutants broke that sacred mold. They were creations not of God, but of the devil. And I have been chosen to lead the fight against them. So
the way he twists things into his
that's the beauty. Any movie with a religious lunatic that The Mist. If you ever seen the Frank Darabont movie, The Mist, the villain in that is one of the most, you hate her from start to finish, and she hides behind this religious ideology and gets people to do horrible things for her in its name, and you literally hate this character. The show Midnight Mass, if you ever seen that, I'm a huge fan of it.
Yeah, I did. I love that movie.
I'm a huge fan of Mike Flanagan. The woman in that, you hate her.
My favorite Flanagan one.
It's mine too, actually. I love everything he's done, but it's my favorite Flanagan one as well. So
I love this scene with Storm here too. Like her powers are dampened supposedly, but she still manages to like freak the weather out, and there's like lightning happening, and can't stop Storm. She's the best.
So this is where, Cyclops asks him where he learned about the X-Men. He says, under the auspices of the federal government, his liaison with FBI agent Fred Duncan, senior official of the Bureau, devoted member of his crusade, passed on the files. The more he learned about Xavier, the more he's convinced he is the Antichrist, which is an interesting way of taking this.
It's the eyebrows.
And then he says, why didn't you kill us? And he says, I have my reasons, young man, basically, which you're going to learn to regret. So he finds out that gets a phone call about prisoners from the school, tells him to kill Kitty Pryde. Storm, he gets upset and tries to use her powers before the thing comes down and stops her. So, and we cut to basically them going
with because then it flashes outside and the weather's still going nuts.
Yeah, but it's not really stopping them. They're still doing what they're going to do.
But I don't think even that suit can completely contain her fury. Yeah, Storm is too strong. Too strong, André.
Too strong.
Yeah, so now it's outside. The purifiers are shooting a car that says Mutie on it.
No, I believe they thought she was in the trunk. I'm just trying to see where that was.
Oh, they did. Yeah, they thought Kitty was in there still. But she phased out. But then Kitty...
Well, they didn't put her in the trunk. I saw them get... I'm just trying to understand what happened here, because in the comic, it shows them take Ileana. And then... oh, yes, that's right. She phased into the trunk, and then they...
she hid in there.
Yeah, they have a sensor that told them that she was in the trunk, and they used a nerve gas in the trunk to knock her out. But then they pull the car over when after they're told by Stryker to kill Kitty, and they just open fire in the trunk, and then open up to find she's not there, that she managed to phase through the gas and stay alive and get out of there. Then she runs into a group of people that I can only describe as the Warriors from the movie The Warriors.
Runs into the Warriors.
Yeah, well, or one of the one of the street gangs from the Warriors for sure. So they basically are making lines to do horrible things to her, as you can guess. But then the Purifiers come upon them, saying she's theirs. Kitty phases through the wall, and then the Purifiers get in a fight with the street gang. Anne is hit by
Purifiers versus Warriors,
a thrown knife, and then a guy that looks an awful lot The guy looks an awful lot like the Indian boxer from Punch Out. It's tries to attack them, doesn't he? He looks just like him. Yeah, look at him. Show him. Look at him. Look at that guy right there. What was that guy's name?
I forget that guy's name. From Super Punch Out?
Well, I initially played Mike Tyson's Punch Out on the Nintendo. That's where I was at. Tiger, is it Tiger Ali? Was that his name?
No.
It was something like that. Don't say no. I'm pretty sure it was something like that. Characters. Punch Out characters.
It was like Tiger Chan, wasn't there?
No, I think it was Tiger Ali. Do you want to bet money on it?
No.
Glass Joe, Piston Honda, Bald Bull, Kid Quick, Pizza. These are all other people. Bear Hugger, Dragon Chan. He's the guy from Hong Kong. Great Tiger. Great Tiger. That's it.
Oh, Great Tiger.
Yeah. He's from Mumbai. He's would like teleport in weird ways, which is probably kind of racist, going with Middle Eastern, mysticism for his powers. But anyway, I love this. So when they get in a fight with Kitty fades through the wall and run away, Anne tries to shoot her. Then one of the gang members throws a knife at her, gets her in the shoulder. She shoots him. It's Martin. The guy goes, Martin, he's dead, bro. She iced her Hefe.
Iced her Hefe.
Hefe.
We'll pay her back in kind, mi hermanos. Blood for blood.
Blood for blood. So they say I almost had her, but the punks made me lose her, basically. And we see Kitty phasing around, trying to get some change, using her powers to get change out of the phone booth. That's how old this book is. We have phone booths. She tries to call the school, but then she's blown up because they tracked her down, basically, but she faced through the explosion and continued to get away. She ends up taking the train. They're still in pursuit of her. But then
ask the clerk to help her, but then she's like, no, she doesn't want to put the clerk in danger.
Well, the cop comes to her rescue, like the subway cop, and then they shoot him, and she doesn't want to leave him.
They'll shoot cops too.
Anybody. Like, anything gets in the way of their righteous crusade.
Yeah, man. Fear fighters are crazy.
So then Magneto stops it, appears and takes the train right off the track, and takes all the weapons, messes them all up.
What do you not want to be in when Magneto shows up?
Anything metal, but metal's everywhere.
Yeah,
literally metal's everywhere. So you'll never that's why he's such a cool and impossibly powerful being. Because you can do anything. You just wrap yourself. You can make a mountain of metal between you and the person. So the X-Men get involved, mess up the purifiers. Magneto takes the bullet out of the cop to help him so that he won't die from his injuries. Then makes like a little magic carpet ride, which I think is funny. Transforms a chunk of wreckage into a makeshift flying carpet, which you see them all sitting on it while it's flying around the sky. That'd be interesting to see in a movie.
I like to dream.
So they now know that Stryker's behind everything because they interrogated those guys from before and are on their way to basically deal with it. We see Xavier, who is still being brainwashed by Stryker with a lot of religious iconography and whatnot.
Yeah, he's trying to convince Xavier that he's like the word of God and that he should kill mutants as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, basically, they use Cyclops. That's why they kept Cyclops and Storm alive, is they use them as a test subject to see if that his influence on the brainwashing they've done to Xavier will allow him to kill them, which he seemingly does. So they think it's worked.
Yeah.
But then we see the guy. Then we see Philip from before, the guy that was doing part of these tests, sitting in his car reading a paper, and then he's attacked by Kitty, who phases him out of the car. He thinks that she's dead, she's supposed to be, and then he's attacked by Nightcrawler, who basically scares him into helping them get into the building. So we continue on to the bodies of I like how they're like, let's get rid of these muty bodies, and they're just like you see Cyclops' body like flailing into the pit. They're just throwing them into the bin to take them to the incinerator.
I like that Nightcrawler bit though, where Nightcrawler just wraps him up and like threatens to like bite his neck. He's getting closer and closer with his teeth.
Yeah, he says you're strangling me. Suffocation's the least of your worries.
Yeah. Just having some fun.
Also, you think about the way he's doing it in a German accent. He says, like, I was hoping you would say that, but we have ways of making you talk, but many more of making you die. Like,
I want to suck your blood.
Yeah, I guess I'm getting like Romanian. The German accent stuff. Every time I think of the German accent, I just think of Werner Herzog. This is a moment I've long looked forward to. You know what I want. My patience is wearing thin. So anyway, not quite as scary. So they're gonna go throw the bodies into the incinerator, and decides to come with them. They want to keep the kid for examination. Ileana, who they still have, on their way down to the incinerator, the whole elevator gets ripped out of the building. Anne manages to dive out and get to the roof in time to get away. But
she dives from a friggin' height, though, man.
Quite high, yeah.
Which is explained later. But
so she thinks that they didn't come back to get her after she got out, so they don't expect her. They don't think she's worth come back for, which is a mistake. But then they check the bodies of Storm and Cyclops where they reunite with Eon and discover that they're still alive. And they believe that
shot of Magneto with like the planets. I like
the planets.
Put that as a poster on my wall.
What picture you show? Oh, that one. Yeah.
Earth and the moon there. I like that shot.
Well, actually Magneto has some stuff here that's pretty important as far as the whole point of this whole thing. But so he says Charles must have been resisting the programming, even to the point that he just made it look like they died and didn't actually kill them. That they were level. Yes, he's so good that he can't even allow himself to kill them, even subconsciously. So he says, considering our past association, your reaction is understandable. I am not your enemy, X-Men, nor do I consider you mine. True, my goal has ever been the conquest of Earth, but solely to create a world where our race, Homo Superior, can live in peace. Look at yourselves, risking your lives for humanity that would rather see you behind bars or dead. Why do you persist? Is your way any better? A mutant dictatorship. He says, do not take that tone with me, boy. I've lived under a dictatorship and seen my family butchered by its servants. When I rule, it will be for the betterment of all. Contentment breeds tranquility, discontent, rebellion. Therefore, I shall ensure the one by eliminating the root causes of the other. Hunger, poverty, disease, war. The freedoms lost will not be noticed, even in the most libertarian of states, and the material benefits should be more than balance the scales.
This is the most convincing they ever
make. I totally agree with them. And then Cyclops says, anyone can create a utopia for a single generation, Magneto. The trick is making it last. Who preserves your dream after you're gone?
I like his answer.
You, of course, Cyclops and the X-Men. Why do you think I want you by my side? But all this may well be rendered academic if Reverend Stryker's plans are left unchecked.
Which really means I'm going to take over the world, Cyclops, and you can answer for my crimes.
And basically, or look after things when I die. Well, it actually reminds me a lot of a movie I have a lot of reference for, Firefly. Or Serenity. Firefly is the show.
Serenity.
Yeah. So, even at the end, and that movie is fantastic. That villain, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, is the operative, I think is his name, is fantastic. And there's even a line where he does these horrifying things to ensure that the plans of the government happen. And when someone says, well, where are you going to fit into this utopia that you're building? He says, oh, there'll be no place for me. He says, I'm a monster. I'm doing what I can to make things better for everyone. But when I get there, I won't be allowed there because this beautiful world that we create will have no place for a monster like me. And it's such a good, that character is so good. And it sucks that Joss Whedon is such a controversial figure now because he was such a good writer at one point. But thankfully, there are a lot of other good people out there that are
like carrying and run a lot too.
So then we cut to basically Stryker making this big rally.
Oh, but I actually wanted to take issue with something you said though. See, I don't think it was that they were trying to say that Professor Xavier's so good that on a subconscious level he couldn't kill Storm and Aurora. Right before they have him psi blast Storm and Aurora. I mean, Scott and Aurora. Stryker's like, they are mutants, and Xavier just smiles and goes, they are my children. So it's like, I think they're trying to establish that he really does think of them as his children. So like,
possible. Magneto does say, fascinating, Charles must have been resisting Stryker's programming on some deep subconscious level. He could not kill these two, no matter how much he believed he should. Instead, he reduced their metabolic levels to the barest minimum, creating the illusion of death. But you're right. In this spot, I mean, that probably weighs into the same reasoning. So then we see John Cheever, famous American writer, reporting at Madison Square Garden. I was like, what an interesting. It can't be that John Cheever. I don't think he was a reporter, but I thought it was quite surprising that they chose to use that name. Unless he did decide sometime in the 80s to become a reporter. I guess he's a famous writer. So, he also died in 81, so or 82. So I guess he wouldn't have been alive in this. Actually, maybe it was an homage.
Yeah, maybe.
So we cut to them doing our.
It's just crazy though. They filled Madison Square Garden for this. Like this story builds to such a fever pitch.
Yes,
it would make such a good movie. Like it would you come into this final kind of confrontation scene, and there's just a crowd cheering in a full Madison Square Garden. Like it would be crazy movie.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, especially with all the religious fervor around it, right? So basically, he has a dark version of Cerebro he created that is based around Xavier. He's going to use to do the opposite, have Xavier kill all the mutants, use his powers to amplify and kill all mutants across the world. Then he's interrupted by Anne, who tells him what happened. He says there's nothing they can do to stop him. He's a servant of the Lord, so he'll be victorious, which, is troublesome in its own right. Ow. Hey, psst, cat. So he said he's biting.
Or Ripley.
No, it's Slabowski. Ripley's not that bitey. So, the Reverend has some pretty fire and brimstone type speech here. Says we are beings of divine creation.
He sure does.
Yeah, we're
does.
beings of divine creation, yet those are among us whose existence is an affront to that divinity. God created man, the human race. The Bible makes no mention of mutants, so where do they come from? Some so-called scientists, humanists, say that they are part of the natural process of evolution.
Scientists that told us that evolution exists. Now they want to tell us mutants are
Are we now to let them who put forward the proposition that we are descended from apes tell us that our descendants, our children, will be born monsters and that this is natural? I say no. I say never. We are as God made us. Any deviation from that sacred template, any mutation comes not from heaven, but from hell. So then we see the switch get thrown, which is Charles's powers activating and burrowing into the mines. All the X-Men start getting headaches, and Nightcrawler's ears start bleeding. But then during this instance, we see Magneto crash the party.
Striker, which also super cinematic.
Where the X-Men are gripped by the moment of fatal indecision, Magneto takes matters in his own hands. Stryker! Since you have proclaimed Armageddon for Homo sapiens and Homo superior, it seems only fitting that you meet your chief adversary face to face. And then, he spouts some Bible verse. Behold, another beast, and he had two. It's from the book of Revelations, the last book in the Bible, about the apocalypse. So he says, behold, Magneto, most feared of a fearsome race, self-styled overlord of earth and slaver of its people. There's a lot of interesting dialogue here. It's very good. So with the device they have, he's able to point it as a weapon and use it on Magneto, which makes him crash into the audience, and the audience is getting more and more bloodthirsty after everything that's going on. Magneto managed to repel them a bit using his powers, but he's kind of
signs like stop the mutation menace.
So there's a senator that's
how can you politically stop mutation from happening?
It's all political. Everything is, including it's all just politics, man. It's all just politics. Making mutants for politics. So there's a senator in the audience who doesn't necessarily agree with Stryker's message, but think that after seeing all this fervor and everybody getting stirred up into wanting to kill people, that Stryker's gone too far. But then one of his aides notices that the senator's ears are bleeding. So the senator's a mutant, didn't realize it. The cops, even like the security that are there, are saying this is supposed to be a church service, not a circus. Things are starting to get out of hand. We see the X-Men, who are being affected by what's going on, still pushing through and trying to get in there to help, fighting some of the guards and stuff. Then we see Anne, the Stryker's loyal servant, has the nosebleed as well. She is secretly a mutant and perhaps didn't know as well.
Which helps she survived that frigging crazy elevator.
That probably so, actually.
Yeah.
So also might be why the X-Men.
No, she doesn't survive this fall very well.
Oh, that's true. So his podium is quite high.
Yeah.
And she's reaching out saying
15 footer, maybe.
He says, like, well, if you're a mutant, you're worthless, you're not real, you're devil born and all that sort of stuff. She says, well, I served you religiously, in quotes. Like, how could you turn me away? And he says, like, a true daughter of heaven would have accepted her fate. And then he pushes her, and she just falls, snaps her neck, and dies on national television. To which
this is
Magneto,
so crazy. Like, this is
Yeah.
just the most bonkers scene. If this was like in a movie, people
Even
would
says,
be
mutant
like, "What is
hellspawn, I
happening?"
deny you. I cast you forever into the abyss, and pushed her. And she just says, no, and then falls. Reverend, no. And then falls, breaks her neck. So
Yeah.
Magneto says, is this then the holy word, Reverend, that any who oppose you must die? And then the humans start turning on them. Then the cops say, nobody's getting anybody. Take a walk. They're trying to keep order here.
Well, the
Then
cops noticed, or was it the senator that's just like, it was like Magneto like didn't just he fixed the roof. He came in like, creating a hole in the roof, but he immediately fixed it. They're like he was just making an entrance. He's not an attacking.
Yeah, even better than before. I think it was the line they said it looked even stronger than it was before. They even fixed it. He made the roof better. There's a link up there. It's gone. Praise be Magneto.
Magneto, can you come to my house next?
Yeah, that's right. I got a link you can figure out. Maybe that's a Magneto side gig. You can just fix stuff. I mean, think if he was, how easy your life would be. You just like make metal roofs for people in seconds. You can do anything. Make buildings. I guess I wonder how much, like, if you were. I guess you need to have an understanding.
Asteroid space stations.
Well, you'd have to have an understanding of carpentry in order to just like form stuff into a building. You have to know how it works, or structural engineering of some kind.
They have established he's a genius.
I'm sure you could figure it out. So the X-Men managed to break into the chamber where Xavier's being held, and they use their abilities to break the machine to get him out of there. And basically come out on stage during the fight. To Stryker's surprised to see them. This is a whole big thing. Basically, Cyclops steps in as the de facto voice of reason here.
I am gonna make another slag on the movies, but go ahead.
Why?
Because this is an amazing Cyclops scene, and this is exactly who Cyclops is. But you could never imagine the Cyclops from those movies ever saying so.
Oh, I readily could. I easily could imagine him saying this.
Nope.
Yeah. Anyway. Yes. Just because he didn't have the opportunity in the movie to do it doesn't mean the character couldn't. And especially in the second movie, he has a bunch of lines about.
But he just didn't come off as that thoughtful a character. Really, it was just kind of.
Well, it's not just
this bro dude.
I do not think he's depicted as a bro dude. That is not fair at all.
No.
He's a soldier. He's a good soldier. That's what he is.
Yeah.
But
well.
So anyway, when this is going on, it's funny. Stryker just murdered someone on national television, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's not already like taken right away."
He was a mutie, stinking mutie.
So Cyclops says, "You've been making some pretty extreme charges against us. We figured we'd claim equal time to answer them. You don't mind, do you? So your toys are broken, Reverend. Your goons are beaten. It's just your word against ours." And he says he's nothing to fear. And Cyclops says, "You're a lucky man. Thanks to you and people like you, mutants live in fear every day of our lives. And sometimes those lives are very short. Less than a week ago, 2 children in Connecticut were murdered, Stryker, condemned solely for an accident of birth." Stryker says, "Would you do that to someone because of the color?" No, he says, "Would you do it to someone because of the color of their skin or their beliefs?" So "I do nothing, Cyclops. I'm an instrument of the Lord." So he's even like denying that he had a part in that. "And whatever a man's color or beliefs, he's still human. These children in your X-Men are not." Says who? So Cyclops, "You? What makes your link with heaven any stronger than mine? We have unique gifts, but no more so and no more special than those granted a physician or physicist or philosopher or athlete. It could be due to an accident of nature or divine providence. Who's to say? Are arbitrary labels more important than the way we live our lives? What we're supposed to be more important than what we actually are? For all you know, we could be the real human race, and the rest of you, the mutants." And then he says, "Human? You dare call that thing human?" Pointing at Nightcrawler. And then Kitty has a great moment where she says, "More human than you. Nightcrawler's generous and kind and decent. He's been every reason to be bitter, every excuse to become as much a demon inside and out, and much of a demon inside and out. But he decided he'd rather learn to laugh instead. I hope I can be half the person he is. And if I have to choose between caring for my friend and believing in your God, then I'd choose my friend." And then he says, "This is where it's like, all right, we really needed to hit this guy home as being a monster." He says, "Let those blasphemous words, girl, be your epitaph." He pulls out a gun and goes to shoot Kitty. The X-Men just stand there, actually.
They just stand him down.
Realizing, I guess, that this is a moment that's, important. But
it's going to end that crusade of his. He's just self-sabotaging.
She could also phase through the bullet.
She can. She's got nothing to worry about. Neither does Colossus and Wolverine, but...
So then
It's
a shot rings out, making you think that he perhaps hadn't pulled the trigger, but then we see he in fact is bleeding, and that one of the security guards had shot him to stop him from killing an innocent person. So the cops are trying to move everyone along.
Yep.
Then someone says, you know, one of the fervent people in the audience says that cop just shot the reverend. He says, yeah, he was about to shoot an unarmed little girl. If that's the word of God, it sure changed them since Sunday school. And the guy says, what about the Myette? He says, what about them? They've done as much as you as little as you clams. As far as I'm concerned, they're free to go. Good luck to them. They'll need it. So then we see a nice little moment here, actually, which is Xavier convalescing. We see that Stryker's in jail. His purifiers have been also put in jail.
This is something, though. This is Xavier. He's actually gone over to Magneto's side here for a second. He's
slightly.
Magneto.
He's and then say that from prison, Stryker has denied his indictment as religious persecution, and will eventually vindicate himself, which is such a fun religious way to phrase that. So then we see Magneto still hanging around, say a Pyrrhic victory, X-Men, whose hollowness is even now becoming apparent. The man was beaten, his cause lives on. Already it's being said that Stryker's goal was right, only his method is flawed. No matter how hard you try, you cannot truly win. Xavier says, I fear you were
that Magneto, isn't he?
Well, he's seen a lot of horrible stuff done by humans.
Yeah, true.
So we see Xavier say that he thinks he might be correct, and then all the X-Men are kind of surprised about his tone. So why should we join me? He says, why not? I've spent my life smashing my head against the wall that refused to be broken. Perhaps it's time we found a better way. Stryker made me a killer, even though no one actually died. The intent was there. I swore a long time ago I would see no more X-Men die. If Magneto is the only means to that end, then so be it. And this is where, Cyclops stands up again. Cyclops says, I won't accept that, Charles. Granted, times are tough for us, and they'll probably get a lot worse. Granted, we probably could conquer the world, though the cost in blood would be staggering. But do you see neither of you were human too? A different branch, perhaps, but the same basic tree. Such a fundamental shift in attitude can't be imposed to have any meaning. It must grow from within. You brought us together to fill a dream, Charles, one born out of the hope in the noblest of human aspirations, and we sweated and bled. Some of us have died to make it a reality. I'm not prepared to give up. The means are more important as the end. The means are as important as the end. We have to do this right or not at all. Anything less negates every belief we've ever had, every sacrifice we ever made. Magneto has a nice moment where he says, you are all agreed to this? I see. And you, Charles, do you subscribe to your students' insanity, or will you join me? Charles says he cannot. He says, you remind me, Magnus, I taught them. I gave them their reason for being. I cannot desert them. If they're willing to give my dream a chance, then so am I. Magneto has a nice moment here. He says, you are a fool. You're all fools. And Magneto, like Wolverine's lighting a cigar. Says, maybe, but by the same token, chum, the world's got no shortage of windmills to tilt at, which is a nice Don Quixote reference. And Magneto says, I have wept over too many graves, X-Men. I will not do so over yours. It's just don't go, stay with us. Yeah. He says, I cannot fight for that which I do not believe, Kitty, much as I wish it otherwise. For all your sakes, mutant and human, I hope you do. But should you fail, it'll be my turn. And which is a lovely little way to send him off into the ether.
Mm-hmm.
So then, Charles has a moment of joy, basically being touched by his X-Men that still believe in his dream, even though he faltered. We see a nice moment between Storm and Cyclops.
Talking about nice moment.
Yeah.
Like this book has everything. It has Cyclops take over from Xavier as the true leader of the righteous mutant cause, which is exactly.
Well, Storm even says this seems like it might be heading them, because at this point Jean Grey was dead, so it seems almost like they're heading these two towards a romantic thing, which I don't think ever happened. But Storm says, I've never
like as co-leaders of the X-Men kind of thing.
Yeah, they're holding hands and stuff.
She said kind of equals.
She says, I've never been more proud of you. You said what was in our hearts, both here and at the garden. I think for a moment, you unnerved the professor, you became the teacher, and he the pupil. Mm-hmm. And then Cyclops says, labels again, to hell with him. He was in need. I helped him as he would me. That's all. That's what it's all about, really. Needing and helping, caring for one another. And from that caring comes love, which makes the world go round. If only that were so. Nice way.
Yeah.
Beautiful story. I think a definitive, I would say, of all the X-Men stories, probably the most definitive way to describe the characters, describe the story, and describe the message of the comic.
To pick the great it's amazing. But anyway, how amazing?
Beautiful.
Let's ask ourselves.
Each of us will have to look into his own heart and decide.
Luckily, our hearts have swelled from reading this story, so it's easier to look at them. Ratings from 1 to X. That's just an X for me. This story's top notch. Doesn't get much better than that.
Nice.
Yeah.
I give it 1. I'm kidding. It's an X. Of course, it's an X. It's fantastic. Beautifully drawn. Excellent story. It actually is funny because there's not a ton of action in it. It's not like a big X-Men fighting a bunch of people with explosions and whatnot. I mean, there is.
But there's intense scenes.
Yeah. But yeah, like the story itself is very interesting. Even the title is provocative. I loved it. That was great. God loves a man kills.
Just like Davan loves an André kills.
With kindness.
That's true. All right. Well, there you have it, fellas. 10 out of 10. That's as good as it gets.
I'd say it's one of the seminal X-Men works. Definitely in any conversation about the best X-Men comics, it should be close to the top, if not there.
And if we were to do a hey, check this out segment, which we won't, because this would be my recommendation.
You don't really need to read it. we just walked you through it, but yeah, it is quite good.
You should read it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Grab the book if you can find it. It's been reprinted a billion times, or if you have the app, it's readily available on there. And if you have a giant tablet like I do, it makes it super easy to read. So it's lovely.
You don't like the movie? Change the channel.
Oh, I didn't know we were doing all these. I didn't know we were doing all these segments.
We're not just this one because I figured you'd have a movie recommendation. You always do.
From an old
Christmas time. Pick a Christmas. Let's both give a Christmas movie recommendation. Why not?
Okay, that's true. I guess this is the last episode for Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't have one next week, so
Oh, I said I was going to wear my Christmas hat.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to wear mine too. Well, let's see. There's a lot of great Christmas movies out there. A lot of ones that are not your normal conventional ones. I did watch an interesting one called The Leech, which sort of is sort of reminiscent to these sort of stories. It's about a religious preacher who takes in a homeless guy and his girlfriend who push the limits of his charity at Christmas time. He believes he's trying to do something good, but letting these people stay with him, and they push him to his limits. It's interesting. I wouldn't say it's the best thing ever. One movie I do watch and highly suggest you watch. It is an old one, but this is just one I watched recently. Was Leave the World Behind. It's a new Netflix movie by Sam Esmail, the guy that did Mr. Robot. If you like that show, you'll like this one. Much like Adam McKay's Don't Look Up from last year, this movie is another one that kind of less funny, but one that'll definitely make you think about society and what's holding us together and how scary it can all be when it falls apart. Very good, very, very good. It's got Julie Roberts and Mahershala Ali, Ethan Hawke, and Kevin Bacon briefly. But it's a really cool movie. It's very good, very dark. Not necessarily the best Christmas movie, but if you want to watch my favorite Christmas movie, watch Jingle All. That's up there. But watch Jingle All the Way, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Oh my god, that one's awful. I tried to watch it again.
It's a fun movie,
it's
dude.
Unwatchable. No, man, don't watch that one.
Phil Hartman is so good in that movie. He's so fucking hilarious. There's a scene where Schwarzenegger, he's obviously trying to bang Schwarzenegger's wife the whole time. And he's just being that nice neighbor that's always there to be helpful and just wheedling his way into her life. And at one point after Schwarzenegger does something that really pisses her off, and it seems like things are at their most dire, he just stands there and looks at him and goes, "Let's see you bench press your way out of this one." The funniest things. And then Schwarzenegger calls his house and he's already over there and he's like, "I'm just having some of your wife's cookies. They're so good," on the phone. And he's like, "Put the cookie down." It's ridiculous. Sinbad's in it. It's fun. Although my all-time favorite Christmas movie, which I haven't watched yet this year, maybe watch it tonight, is Muppet Christmas Carol. Muppet Christmas Carol.
Well, funny you say that because my recommendation was going to be pick a version of the Christmas Carol and watch it. But I was going to recommend
Muppet.
because there's nothing more Christmas than torturing the rich into sharing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's very Christmas.
I would say to check out the Patrick Stewart version. That's my recommendation.
Just because Patrick Stewart, not the George C.
It's
Scott
great
one,
performance.
not the Alistair Sim
He was
one.
known for his one-man play of that too, so no one can do that character like him.
Oh, I mean, I'm not going to downplay the accomplishments of Patrick Stewart, but George C. Scott and Alistair Sim's version is like the seminal one that most people love or watch the most. But they're all good. I mean, I really like the
Patrick Stewart version.
I like the Zemeckis one, the one with Jim Carrey in it. Like that one was all right too. I don't know. They're all good.
I don't think I've seen
It's like animated the way Polar Express was, so they're all like it's an uncanny valley thing.
Well,
but I remember I saw
Christmas Carol's good too, though.
Ah man, Michael Caine is mint in that. He's probably one of my favorite Scrooges. Super good.
Well, he's good. Well, let's. You know what we should do before we get out of here?
What?
Hey, look who I found coming to join the party.
Glad y'all decided to join the party.
Well, Ex-Goon Hanif sent along some pictures for me. So there's a new line of the X-Men 97 toys coming out.
Ooh.
So Cyclops, who probably should have been in line one, he's Cyclops.
Good.
We got Jean Grey.
Oh, I like the long hair version. The hair down versions.
Madeline Pryor.
Oh, okay.
With a baby.
The
Baby
Goblin
Cable.
Queen.
Like, there's all kinds of
Would
stuff
that be
going on.
Evil
Like, that's a
Dean?
spoiler. That's going to be like Baby Cable right there. That's a spoiler.
She called Goblin Queen. I can't see it because Party Like It's 97 is blocking it.
Yeah, she's called
Okay.
Goblin Queen.
All right.
So we must be doing a straight up Inferno storyline. That's cool.
Oh, that's fun.
Magneto and that awesome new music.
Man, that design is so cool.
I love it. Nightcrawler.
He looks a lot younger. They really streamlined him.
Yeah. They all got a bit youngified though. We were saying that.
I like that his tail. I like that the tail wraps around his leg. That's cool.
And here's a funny one. Let me just put the banner down.
The
to
Mojo?
get it out of the way. Funnier.
Oh, really?
Do you remember the Executioner?
Yeah.
Executioner. I had an annual with him in it. He was in a lot. Like, I still have that annual.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Very
Executioner is actually going to be in this show. That's freaking.
That design looks
that's
pretty cool, actually. Oh, well, he works
Yeah.
for the Friends of Humanity. It's on his belt buckle.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
shit.
FOH. See.
Oh, wow. They got hired the Executioner. Oh, I can't wait for this show. So that's parody. Like it's an apostrophe 97. I'm ready. That show's probably coming out in a month or two. Like it's not going to be long now.
What, the X-Men show?
Yeah, maybe.
No,
They said early 2024, so we'll see. The strike might have pushed it back a bit, but we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully so. Be nice to get in on that. Get all up in there.
Well, there's no homework. There's no lessons to be had with Andre next time.
You know,
Well, we're
enjoy
taking
your
a week off for Christmas.
enjoy your Christmas. Enjoy your holiday. You know, did we talk about the other episodes of the other show stuff?
Of what?
Are you going through the run of the other podcasts?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Your homework is to enjoy your holiday. Have some eggnog if you partake in such things. Hang out with some family, friends, loved ones, whoever you want to spend time with. And yeah, just relax. Enjoy your holiday and appreciate the ones you have with you, loved ones and whatnot. And listen to this show. And my other show. Listen to that too.
Yeah, and join us in 2 weeks' time, where we will be playing X-Men the arcade game. We got Jaemeel, we got Jody from Live Long and Podcast. We'll have a crew of us, hopefully 6 of us, because then we can fill out the entire roster of that game and try to beat it. So check that out. And then we'll be back with X-Men 2.
Excellent. Dave will be here to join.
Mm-hmm. And then, maybe we'll talk about that script with Bob Skier. We'll see. We got stuff coming up. And interviews coming up. There's lots happening. We're not slowing down at all here. So you can support the show at patreon.com/X-Men Review Show. Contact us at xmenreviewshow@gmail.com or follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You just message me on Facebook. It's easier than email. You can please like, review, and subscribe, people, because we just got 1,000 followers on Facebook, and we love you all for that. Claim your prizes. We did a giveaway. Claim your prizes, people, or I'm redrawing them. So yeah, let's do that. Let's do that on YouTube. Let's everyone on Facebook there jump over onto the YouTubes. Let's get up to 1,000 on YouTube too, and from there, infinity and beyond. And you can find us at ufpodcast.com, which we were a proud member of, and check out all the other shows thereabouts. Like Hold Up a Movie Podcast. We'll talk about radio shows here in a week or so, 2 weeks, 28th or something like that, 27th, 28th. It's been delayed a few times, but it's going to happen. Go watch Pontypool. It's a great movie.
You're pretty high at Pontypool.
It's one of my favorite movies, man.
It's a great movie. It's a great movie.
Mater Brothers, check it out. They're reviewing reality shows over there. And the Mater Society, we'll have to talk about What If soon, because that's going to be coming out. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to What If Season 2, André.
I'm actually just watching What If Season 1 right now. I'm catching up on stuff that I never got around to watching. So I'm on the Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands episode. I watched some of it before, but then I just never got around to finishing it. So now I'm going back. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do Secret Invasion, and then I think they catch me up on Marvel. I watched the Marvels. So is there another show I missed? Oh yeah,
Loki Season 2.
Yes, that one. That's after that. So yes.
Yeah. Well, what's happening over on? A Graphic Histories podcast.
Well, we have episode just dropped with Joe Esma almost 2 weeks ago. The next episode drops on Christmas Day, which will be with Christopher Sequeira, who is the writer of the Halloween Star Trek series and has a bunch of other editing and book collections of various anthologies. Super cool guy, great conversation about horror stuff mostly, and vampires and Jack the Ripper, and he's got some really, really cool guy to talk to. Really fun. They got that episode edited. Will be up on Monday, and then in the new year we're going to change back to a weekly format. I have so many guests that it seems waiting 2 weeks is going to not be as tenable as it used to be. So because of that, I'm keeping up with that. I have a bunch of people in the hopper, but the next guest, the first one of season 5, which will be in the new year, will be Alex Robinson, who did indie comic, a bunch of indie comics, but Box Office Poison, Tricked, and Our Expanding Universe recently. Very famously does a very, very famous podcast, which I was unaware of, called Star Wars Minute, in which him and his associate watch every Star Wars movie by minute. So each episode is about a minute of the movie.
That's a great idea for
it's and because they're the one. Well, there's one other person that did something kind of similar, but they're the ones that really made it popular. And now there's a bunch of other ones that do that, but they're the ones that did it with Star Wars. So
imagine how many long we could do this show if we did the X-Men the animated series by the minute. We could do this show for the
their episodes are daily, I believe. So but then they're only like 15-minute long or something. They must record a bunch of them at once, so they break them up. But so very cool, great conversation. That comic I discovered through Wizard Magazine when I was a teenager, and we actually talked about that. That article helped to get that book the attention it needed to keep going. So it's actually really interesting that I discovered it that way as well. But great conversation, and then episode after that will be with Michael T. Gilbert, creator of Mr. Monster. I just recorded that episode today. So then a bunch of people after him, Paris Elaine, and other folks down the line. So. But so those are the next 3 episodes. But weekly after that, every Monday. Like, subscribe, review, and share it away. Mm-hmm. Davan is my producer now, so he's helping me.
This is the WTF of the graphics history or graphic arts.
That's what it was when I started it. That's what the intention was. So,
you've done it.
We're getting there. I'd like to make his money. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
But I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of that
money.
Big fan of that show. So it definitely was an inspiration for mine. So
Also, check out Live Long Podcasts and our varied Star Trek content over there.
That's true.
Including Locutors of Trek.
We just did a radio theater over there in which I played Data.
We
How
did.
How was my
over in our
Data,
command division or ops division. What?
How was my
Your
Data?
It was good. You kept it pretty tight. Kept
I didn't realize you were allowed to be ridiculous. Everyone else was like,
oh yeah.
I was like, oh, I thought we had to keep
I
it pretty
don't
straight.
stay on book ever. I just go in there and be a wild card every time. That's my whole jam.
I think that
virulent racist and perhaps into little boys. I didn't make Sam Clemens a nice
yeah, your character was not Southern. I don't know what that accent was, and basically just like random evil dandy villain from I don't know whatever. But
yeah, it was fun.
It was fun.
Yes, we did that over there, and we talked about metaphysics recently on Locutors of Trek with the writer of the Metaphysics of Star Trek, Richard Hanley. And on January 8th, we will be talking astrophysics with Dr. Aaron McDonald.
With Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Hey, you know what? Neil deGrasse Tyson would be my second choice after Dr. Aaron.
Nice.
She is the science consultant for Star Trek. So, yeah. We also did a Trek 10 recently, and we have another one coming up. It's going to be the top Trek 10 most important Klingons. Because we love Klingons. And also check out Trivial Debates, Eamon on Track.
I'm going to be in a future
Hellbound
episode of that, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you're going to be talking the Pixies here soon on that, I think.
Yeah, Doolittle.
Yeah. So, I guess that's it from us.
Well, so one thing I wanted to notice: did you hear the news about Kang? Old Jonathan Majors is fired.
Oh yes,
from Disney. Got a guilty verdict in one of his trials there, and been henceforth dumped from Marvel.
Hey, look, if that clears space for Doom to come in earlier than he would have otherwise,
I think they're just going to recast. I think they're just going to recast him.
Really interesting, because I heard they changed the name of the movie from Kang.
Oh,
maybe they're abandoning
I mean, I would like to see the character continue on. I mean, there are a million rumors online. One of the rumors is that Marvel is eyeing Will Smith to take his place, which actually would
get one controversial figure with another. Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a difference between a slap.
You can't
fight.
slap your girlfriend, but you can slap Chris Rock on a stage in front of a lot of people.
Well, that's just a rumor online. I know John Boyega was mentioned, but I don't think he's interested. It'd be interesting to see what they end up doing with this. It may be. I'd hate to see them just shoehorn Doom in without a great origin just to fill this role. But a lot of people, I haven't seen Loki season 2, so a lot of people are saying the Kang story could be wrapped up in that. So maybe they just won't bother. Maybe that'll be the end of it, and they'll just go on with something else.
Oh, you can end the character there. I mean,
there are a lot of
cosmic
characters that could fill the role as being a cosmic.
Yeah, more
threat.
high evolutionary. He was freaking great.
Actually, I would love to see him play that role. That would be amazing. But
except he's already high evolutionary. But
well, that doesn't really stop everybody,
He would have played a great Kang.
Yeah, he would have been, especially after seeing him in that movie. But there's lots of great actors that could fill that role. I always thought, one actor that I would have loved to see take that position, but I do believe, I think they're still making a Wonder Man movie show, and I think he's still in it. Is that?
I thought I heard that was canceled.
Oh well, if so, that actor should be Kang, the guy that plays Black Manta in the James Wan Aquaman movies. I never pronounce his name right.
The guy they cast for Wonder Man.
Yeah, he was in the Candyman remake. He was in the Watchmen HBO series, which I highly suggest. He's fantastic. He'd be really good in that role. And he's good. He's great. He's a great Black Manta, but those movies aren't fantastic. But I'd like to see him do Kang. I think he'd be great. I would definitely buy him doing the role.
Yeah, I'm here for that.
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
Yabdul something. I never remember his name.
Oh, something Mateen. Is that his name?
It's like Yabdul. Let me look him up. Candyman 4. Is that what that one was? Candyman 2021. His name is Yahya. Yahya Abdul Mateen II.
Yeah, Mateen.
Yahya.
Yeah, sure. Go with him.
Yeah, I think he's great. He's a great actor, and he, he's an opposing character. And if he's not available, let's get Tony Todd back. He's great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
get Tony
yeah.
Todd. That's my number one pick now.
He's the
All
voice
right.
of Venom on the new Spider-Man game.
Oh, it's a great voice of Venom.
Yeah, I'm really excited to play that game actually.
You still heard about that big Wolverine game leak?
Oh no, what was the leak?
Oh, like they got hacked, so like the whole plot for the whole new Wolverine game coming out was leaked.
Oh, it couldn't have been that. I'm sure people are still going to play it.
Oh yeah. Anyways, catch you next time.
Next time, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.